I'm here at the estate in Scotts Valley, where Alfred Hitchcock had a private estate, and not a lot of people know this about Alfred Hitchcock's personal life. So we're coming up on Alfred Hitchcock's private estate. He did have one house in Beverly Hills, LA area. He also had a house in Switzerland before this. So if you look up here, it's a bit hidden, of course, Hitchcock. This is the private estate. Huge swimming pool, wine cellars, bedrooms. There's actually some stained glass windows of birds there. There are tons of artistic pieces throughout the house that are still there today, and thank God the private family that lives there made sure to keep the house intact to its original glory and what Hitchcock actually put in artistically. So when coming up to this estate, you have to veer off from a very, very small town called Scotts Valley. And once you get through a set of gates, there's all these signs that say private. And it's actually very eerie. I felt like it's very Hitchcock in a way, almost like a sarcastic joke, because getting up here, you can feel your knuckles kind of clench on the steering wheel because a bit of the cliff starts to fall off. And there's a private iron gate, and you drive up to it, just like what was here when Hitchcock was here, and it just ominously opens slowly for you and creaks, and then you come up the side of this very single winding road, one-way road to get up here, and I feel like your reward at the end of it is this castle in the sky. It just seems very Hitchcock-esque. Also, Alfred Hitchcock was actually very worried about security up here, especially in the late 1940s to the early 1960s. Hitchcock suddenly became a worldwide name, and up here at the time, and even now, it is very secluded. It is a very winding road to get up here. You can't contact police or go to a hospital very quickly. So therefore, Hitchcock was very worried for him and his family's safety. So this area up here on the hill actually kind of became like the Grinch. Kind of became like the Grinch Mountain, where all the local kids in Santa Cruz and kids on the other side of the mountain would be like, I dare you to go up to the Hitchcock house. I dare you. Oh, it's so scary. So a lot of people, whether it be crazy fans or kids or just people trying to cause trouble, would try to come up to this estate. So Alfred Hitchcock actually ran a line of a telephone wire up the mountain that connected to his bedroom, so he could call the police if something were to occur. He also put iron bars over his windows. Now, this wasn't pure paranoia for Hitchcock. It truly was for him and his family's safety. I'm actually here today. We're going to meet my friend Zeene, who runs her own channel of travel and film in California. We're gonna do a wine tasting here, because this estate actually had its own small batches of wine, and to this day it now has a larger distribution. In recently moving to this area, I had been watching Zeene's work for a few months. I realized that there were some great key locations in the area, and that Zeene, who has her own travel food cinema channel, would be a perfect guide to. So yeah.
And hopefully you guys get a chance to check it out. It's called Zeene In Real Life, and I feature all these wonderful both tourists as well as locals destinations around San Francisco and the Bay Area. And I do also have a series which kind of ties really nicely with Savannah's channel called Filmed in San Francisco. And we travel all around San Francisco and the Bay Area, both North Bay as well as down here to South Bay and the Central Coast, to take a look at some of the fantastic destinations that are featured in films.
Yeah, and so of course, I'm sure you've noticed we have the wine here. So Alfred Hitchcock loved wine, he loved eating and after dinner liqueur, and this estate was actually a very small private family winery. They didn't distribute it at that time. But we're here doing a great wine tasting, and it's in the exact same location where the Hitchcock family lived for probably about 3 decades. Yeah. But this is, for me, when I think of Hitchcock, I don't think of a secluded redwood home in California. Why? You've traveled so much in California. Why do you think this area Hitchcock decided to have a family home in? Yeah. Or film so many films in?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. His granddaughter, Terry Karuba, mentioned in a news article that he really felt connected to cosmopolitan San Francisco, that it was a place he really, really loved. And then, of course, that connection with Joan Fontaine from Rebecca. Yeah. Her parents, she's actually from the Bay Area. Her parents live in Los Gatos, which is just over the hill from here. And when he decided he wanted to come here, They recommended that he look in Scotts Valley, which is where we're at now and where this estate is at. I think a lot of the elements of this area are very reminiscent of England. In the evenings and the wintertime, it's very chilly and foggy, and you get that really crisp ocean air that washes over the area. It's really beautiful. And then, I mean, check out these views.
Yeah, it's incredible.
These are gorgeous. I mean, how can you not want to live
yeah.
across the mountains from that? So
Yeah. And it was probably much more convenient, seeing as he chose to film a few films in this area. I know you have some series filmed in San Francisco, and actually one of the only Hitchcock films that is placed in a true real city is Vertigo. And that was, on one hand, it was an ode to San Francisco because Hitchcock and his wife were very partial to this area. They personally loved it, but it's also because of the winding roads and the topography of Vertigo is about dizziness and there's so many different themes in that film.
And then the other reason why I think Hitchcock really wanted to live in this area is that he is a viticulturalist by hobby, and so he really wanted to find a winery or a vineyard where he could practice that hobby.
Yeah, and there's some great photos. I think I found a few of him in his own wine cellar that's just up the road here. So this isn't the exact same varietals that Alfred Hitchcock grew himself in a cellar here. It actually is specializing in Pinot Noir, whereas Hitchcock had his own Cabernet Sauvignon plants as well as Riesling.
So this property was actually developed and created in 1881, so the winery goes a long ways back. And the property was originally purchased by the Cornwalls, who were kind of high society San Franciscans. And back in the olden days, people used to summer, and they had summer homes. So they would either summer down here in the Central Coast, or they would go all the way to Lake Tahoe. And this was the Cornwalls' summer home. So the Cornwalls were also interested in wines, and they grew a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon grapes around here. And they created the first label, which is called Santa Sadie. His Pierre Cornwall's wife was named Sadie, and so they had the Santa Sadie label.
And so this winery is still operating. The actual Hitchcock estate in the 1970s was sold. Alma had a stroke, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they weren't able to make it up here in their older age. They had a house in the LA Beverly Hills area. So then it was sold to a family who still owns it today, and now we're at this winery area is still on the private property, but it's sitting just across from the actual home and swimming pool and an estate, the grounds that the Hitchcocks lived on.
And today it's called Armitage Wines.
Yes, it's called Armitage Wines. They specialize in Pinot Noir, and also the winemaker Brandon did study on wines in New Zealand. They're fantastic. I will also link that below, their website, and a way that you can come here and do your own tasting. And please also note that the Hitchcock house is a private residence at this point, so that's something to respect.
But doing a tasting here is so fantastic. You get great views, the people are friendly, the wines are delicious. What more could you want?
This place saw so many Golden Age stars. One in particular is Grace Kelly. We love her, but she became the Princess of Monaco, and her daughter and son, who are the Prince and Princess, and Prince Rainier, came here with tons of security, but they would vacation here all the way from France. I know that, of course, some of Hitchcock's actors, from Jimmy Stewart to Kim Novak, came here. And then Ingrid Bergman was here, and God knows who else. I mean, this is a time before cell phones and social media, so I'm sure that this estate has seen so many amazing names and has, if the walls could talk, just like amazing stories of Golden Age Hollywood stars drinking Hitchcock wines up here in the secluded mountains. A lot of people, when they think of Hitchcock, I feel they're so focused on his shock and horror. What comes to mind is the shower scene in Psycho. And I'm so glad that we're here because I really feel like it humanizes Alfred Hitchcock as a person off camera.
In his real life, Hitchcock enjoyed very earthly things like liquor, food, and practical jokes with friends. Wine always played an important role in his life, not only in a recreational way, but he also incorporated it into one of his films as a key object for the plot. So in the movie Notorious, which came out in 1946, it was starring Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant, and a bottle of wine is the object of desire for both starring roles. He also had an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the TV series, and the episode was titled A Bottle of Wine, and it aired in 1957. The plot of the TV episode was centered on a love triangle that ends in tragedy, but the entire episode revolves around wine. In 1960, because of his well-known passion, he was inducted into the prestigious Confère des Chevaliers d'Étain. Basically, it was an elite society created in 1934 with the purpose of promoting Burgundy wines. He joined people like his favorite female collaborator, Grace Kelly, along with Francis Ford Coppola, Ronald Reagan, so many people. In the 2012 film called The Girl, which was about Hitchcock's personal life and some of the abuse inflicted on Tippi Hedren, there's actually a specific scene from a real conversation where Hitch talks about Burgundy Pinot Noir grapes. A letter from Alfred Hitchcock, written in March 1962, was actually just recently found in a winery in Bristol, England. In the letter, he complained about how difficult it was to import wines into California. Hitch's personal life and experiences wildly informed his art. There's just no denying it. Uncovering his life gives us deeper context into the 4+ decades of work he left behind. In doing research and also being a Hitchcock fan, I see that there's really not much content on his life outside of the films he made. Often I see his work and legacy deduced to sensationalism just to resell his brand, especially in modern day. I'm not really a fan of that. If you have any questions about his work, his films, his personal life, please leave them in the comments below, and someday in the future, my team and I can make an episode on it. As always, please like and subscribe so we can continue garnering support to broaden our own hidden Hollywood content library.
And now, daddies and mummies, I think the time has come to lamb out of here. Suppose you take this opportunity to escape. Until next time, of course.